The sky was a bruise of purple and fading red, the last light bleeding across the desert as night began to settle like a heavy shroud. A cold wind came slicing down from the hills, carrying the smell of sage and dry earth, and with it, the kind of silence that made a man's nerves pull tight like the string of a bow. Somewhere, a lone coyote cried out, thin and sharp as a knife edge. The land answered with nothing. Eli Mercer rode up slow, his old sorrel gelding weary from the day's miles, dust caking both horse and rider. The ranch sat crooked against the flat horizon, a cluster of weathered buildings half swallowed by the endless prairie. It wasn't much, but it was his, or what was left of it. Fence lines torn up by storms, the roof on the bunkhouse sagging like an old man's back. The barn still stood, though the doors hung lopsided. He swung down stiffly, boots crunching over brittle grass. The air felt wrong. Too still, too watchful. He paused, hand brushing the colt at his hip, eyes narrowing. That's when he saw her, curled against the side of the haystack, little more than a shadow in the dying light. A girl, no older than 15 or 16, limbs folded tight, a threadbare shawl clutched around her shoulders, hair dark with dirt and tangled in thick snarls. She shook so hard the hay around her quivered. Eli stared for a long, heavy moment. "Hey there," he called, voice low and steady, the way you'd speak to a spooked horse. No answer. The girl's eyes flickered open, wide, hollow things, rimmed red and raw from crying. One side of her face was smeared with blood and dust. Her dress was ripped near the collar, exposing a bruise the size of a man's hand, and around her wrist, raw and angry, a brand mark, a jagged V. His stomach went hard. Outlaws. Goddamn, Eli muttered, and for the first time in a long while, the old fire stirred in his chest. He stepped closer, slow and careful. The girl tried to shrink back deeper into the hay, but there was nowhere left to go. Fear clung to her like smoke. "I ain't gonna hurt you," Eli said. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you now." The girl's lips moved, but no sound came. Just a shudder, like the last brittle leaf clinging to a dying tree. Eli unbuttoned his long coat, shrugged it off, and crouched down. He draped it over her shoulders. She flinched, then gripped it like it was the only solid thing in the world. "Come on now. It's colder in a witch's heart out here." No fight left in her. He scooped her up, skin and bones, lighter than a sack of grain. She made a small, broken sound, half sob, half breath, the kind of noise that sank claws into a man's heart. He carried her into the barn, the horses shifting and stamping in their stalls. The old oil lantern sat by the workbench. Eli struck a match, the sudden flare of light chasing back the darkness. He set her down by a hay pile in the corner, grabbed an armful of kindling, and built a fire in the dirt pit. The flames caught quick, warm light licking the rough beams overhead. The girl huddled close, eyes locked on the fire, like it might burn away the horror. Eli poured water from the barrel into a tin cup, held it out. "Drink." She hesitated, then took it with trembling hands, gulping it down. "What's your name?" he asked. Silence. "Where you from?" Still nothing. He saw it then. Not just fear, but something worse. A kind of hollow, bone-deep terror. Whatever happened to this girl hadn't left room for words. Eli's gaze dropped to the branded wrist again. His jaw clenched. He knew the mark. The vultures. Jedvarn's gang. A pack of butchers that bled this country raw. They'd strung up farmers, torched stagecoaches, gutted whole families for pocket watches. Rumor had it they were holed up somewhere in the canyons east of Dry Rock. His hand drifted to the scar above his ribs. "Old pain, old ghosts." "You ain't gotta talk," Eli said softly. "Ain't no law out here but what a man makes for himself. But you're safe now. You hear me?" A flicker. A slight nod. Outside, the wind howled through the scrub, rattling the barn walls. The storm was coming. Not just rain and lightning, worse. He could feel it, the way a man feels a snake watching from tall grass. Eli tossed another log onto the fire. The girl's breathing evened out, her head starting to nod. "You stay here," he murmured, rising to his feet. He stepped outside, the cold night wrapping around him. Over the far ridge, a flicker of light. A campfire where there shouldn't be one. Vultures. His hand settled on the revolver. The air smelled like blood and gunpowder, though neither had yet been spilled. Eli's eyes narrowed. Not tonight, he whispered. Not on my land. And the wind carried the coyotes' cry once more. The fire burned low, embers pulsing like the last heartbeat of a dying man. Inside the barn, shadows stretched long and thin, crawling up the rough-hewn walls. The girl slept fitfully, twitching now and then, some cruel memory working its claws through her dreams. Eli watched her from where he leaned against a post, hat pulled low, rifle laid across his lap. The wind moaned through the broken slats, and each gust brought with it the stink of smoke from that distant camp. He'd sent men to hell for less than what those bastards did. In his time, Eli Mercer had been a lot of things: trail boss, bounty hunter, drunk killer. He didn't wear the badge no more, didn't claim to be a lawman. Hell, there wasn't much law left this side of the divide. But there were rules a man kept, or he wasn't worth the dust on his boots. And there was no rule older or clearer than this: you didn't mark a child. The girl stirred, a ragged cough escaping her throat. She clutched his coat tighter, and her fingers brushed the brand on her wrist. Her face twisted, eyes snapping open. For a moment, her gaze was wild, unseeing. Then it landed on Eli. "You're safe," he said, his voice rough as gravel, softened only by the flicker of the fire. Her lips parted. The words came thin, dry. They killed my pa." Eli swallowed the ache rising in his throat. "I reckon they did. Ma too. And my little brother. Left him hanging like dogs." The barn seemed to shrink around them, the air thick with smoke and grief. Eli pushed off the post and knelt by her side. The girl's face was smudged with soot, streaked clean by silent tears. "Name's Eli," he told her. "And you?" She hesitated then. "Clara." "All right, Clara. You listen to me now. You're not dying tonight, and neither are you running. Not from them." Her mouth worked, no sound coming at first. "They'll find me. They always do." A brittle thing, that voice. Stripped of hope, barely a thread left. Eli knew the sound well. Men made it on the long walk to the gallows, on battlefields thick with bodies. It was the voice of the already dead. "They ain't gonna find you," Eli said. "Not here." A beat passed. Then another. A sharp rap of hooves outside shattered the stillness. Eli was on his feet in a blink, rifle to shoulder. Through the gap in the barn doors, a rider approached. Alone. Black hat, long coat, lean frame like a scarecrow left out too long in the sun. The man reined his horse a few yards from the barn, sat in the saddle like he owned the whole goddamn world. Eli didn't lower the gun. "Evening, stranger," the rider called, voice smooth as oiled leather. Eli didn't reply. "Name's Boone," the man went on. "Jed Varne's expecting a visit. Figured I'd see what the commotion was about. Lost one of ours earlier. Little bird run off. Seen her." Eli stepped out into the open, rifle steady. "Ain't seen no bird. Just me, my horse, and a barnful of dust." Boone's grin didn't reach his eyes. "That's so. Mighty strange, you burning a fire out here. Word was, Eli Mercer lived out this way. Man with a reputation." "I heard of him," Eli said flatly. Boone chuckled. "We're taking over these parts, mister. New law, new order. Folk best get used to it." "Funny thing about new laws," Eli said. "They got a way of bleeding out in the dirt like the old ones." Boone's smile faltered. Then his gaze shifted, ever so slightly, toward the barn. Eli fired. The rifle cracked like a thunderclap, Boone's head snapping back. He tumbled from the saddle, dead before he hit the ground. The horse bolted, hooves pounding into the distance. Inside the barn, Clara clamped both hands over her mouth, eyes wide with terror. Eli reloaded, quick and sure. The shot would carry. That fire on the ridge wasn't so far. The vultures would come now. He figured on half a dozen, maybe more. Killers and cutthroats, men with no God, no code. He stepped back inside. "Get your things, Clara. You stay behind me. And when I tell you to run, you run." "Here." She nodded. Eli tossed a second revolver toward her. It landed near her feet, heavy and cold. She stared at it like it was a coiled snake. "I can't," she whispered. "You can," Eli said. "And you will. 'Cause I ain't burying no more kids tonight." Thunder rolled low over the hills. The first splatters of rain darkened the dust. In the distance, the glow of the outlaw camp began to move. Lanterns bobbing, voices rising. They were coming. Eli loaded the rifle, chambered another round. The wind carried a voice ahead of the storm. "Mercer, we know you got her. You hand her over. Maybe we let you bleed out slow." Eli stepped onto the porch, rifle ready. "Come take her then," he called. The dark answered. A shot cracked from the hillside, kicking up splinters near Eli's head. He fired back. The outlaw screamed sharp and short as a snake's bite. Then they came. Shapes slipping through the brush, firelight glinting off steel. A dozen more maybe. Thunder boomed again, and the rain came in sheets. Eli dropped one as he crossed the fence line, another as he dove behind a rock outcropping. Gun smoke and rain turned the world to a thick, choking haze. Clara crouched in the barn shadow, hands over her ears, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on her face. "Stay down," Eli barked. Bullets chewed through the barn walls. Horses screamed in their stalls. Eli felt a hotline score his arm, ignored it. Another outlaw burst from the darkness, blade gleaming. Eli's rifle was empty. He swung it like a club, shattering the man's jaw, then grabbed his sidearm. 3 more rushed him. Time slowed. He fired once, twice, missed one, dropped the other. The third tackled him. They hit the mud hard, fists and knives flashing. Eli grunted as the blade bit his shoulder, then slammed the Colt into the outlaw's skull. The gunfire thinned. Breath ragged, Eli forced himself up. The outlaws wavered. Without Boone, without numbers, they hesitated. One of them shouted, "It ain't worth it." A few turned, bolting into the rain-soaked dark. The others followed. Eli fired a parting shot, then staggered back toward the barn. Clara stood there, the second revolver in both hands, knuckles white. She'd fired it. The dead man at her feet proved it. Eli met her eyes, rain running down his face like tears he didn't remember how to shed. "You did good, girl." She swallowed, shoulders heaving. "Are they gone?" "For now." A flicker of light bloomed on the ridge. More campfires. Reinforcements, maybe. Or worse. Eli sighed. "This ain't done," he said. "But it's your home now, Clara. If you want it." She stared at the corpse by her boots, then at the storm beyond. And she nodded. Dawn broke with a dull, red light bleeding over the jagged hills, casting the land in a cruel glow that spoke of old blood and new violence. The storm had passed in the night, leaving the earth sodden and heavy, the air thick with the copper stink of spent gunpowder and wet sage. Smoke still curled from the barn's chimney, but Eli Mercer wasn't inside. He was already out at the edge of the property, rifle slung across his shoulder, eyes fixed on the distant ridge where campfires had burned through the darkness. Clara stood at his side, barefoot in the mud, the battered revolver hanging awkwardly at her hip. "You sure about this, girl?" Eli asked, without turning to her. "I'm done running," she said, voice raw from smoke and grief, but steady as bedrock. Eli grunted approval. "Good, 'cause we got maybe hours before the whole vulture gang comes down that ridge. Jed Varn's got near 30 men now. Cutthroats. Trigger-happy saddle trash. And they ain't coming to talk." She swallowed hard but didn't flinch. Eli hadn't seen her cry since the first night. Some folks broke under a loss like that, turned to ghosts walking through what was left of their lives. But not Clara. The fire had gotten in her, burned out the fear, left only a sharp, hard thing behind. He respected that. "Got word to a couple men," Eli said. "Old friends. Might be fools enough to ride with us." Clara tilted her head, skeptical. "Against 30? Eli smiled, a thin, wolfish thing. "I said they were fools." At noon they came. First was Saul Deeks, a one-eyed, grizzled mountain of a man with a scattergun slung over one shoulder and a grin like he chewed glass and liked the taste. He rode a paint mare older than Sin and meaner than a kick badger. "Eli, you son of a bitch," Deeks greeted, dismounting with a grunt. "Heard you were in a hole again." Didn't figure you for the savant kind, Eli replied. Ain't, Deke said, but I owe you for Cibola Creek. Thought I'd pay up, for you got yourself shot to hell. Next was Jonah Pike, lean as a whip, dark-eyed and silent. No one quite knew where Pike had come from. Some whispered about a deserter from the war. Others a Pinkerton man turned outlaw. What mattered was, he could shoot the head off a rattler at 50 paces, and he didn't scare easy. Pike nodded once at Eli, then to Clara. She met his gaze, unflinching. How many? Deeks asked. 30, give or take, Eli answered. Coming at dusk. Deke spat into the dirt. You always did pick the easy fights. Eli led them into the barn, where the girl had cleaned and sorted what weapons remained. 2 Henry rifles, a pair of Colts, Deke's scattergun, and a battered Sharp's long rifle with a cracked stock. Not much, Clara admitted, but it's what we got. Pike ran a hand over the Sharps, nodding approval. We'll make it count, Eli said. They set to work as the sun dragged its way west. Clara dug firing positions behind the fence line. Deeks rigged up makeshift traps, sharpened stakes in narrow gullies, tripwires to spook horses, oil-soaked rag bombs. Pike climbed the wind-bent oak that stood sentinel over the property. The Sharp slung over his back, his sharp eyes sweeping the hills. Time thickened, each hour stretching long and taut. The land held its breath. At dusk, a vulture wheeled overhead, black wings catching the dying light. Eli looked to the ridge, and there they were. Riders, more than 24, maybe 30, spread like a stain across the horizon. Their leader at the center, tall in the saddle, long gray duster catching the wind. Jed Varn, a killer of men, a slaver, and worse. He rode a blood-bay stallion, a silver-inlaid shotgun resting across the pommel. A man like that didn't negotiate. Eli knew how this would go. They'll want the girl, Deeks muttered, cocking his scattergun. They ain't getting her, Eli replied. Clara knelt beside the fence line, hand steady on the Henry rifle. Eli's voice dropped low. When the lead starts flying, you don't wait for my say. You shoot, girl. Aim for the heart or the head. Don't think. Don't hesitate. I won't, she said. Thunder rolled in the distance, not storm this time but hooves, as the outlaw spurred down the slope. The earth shook. Eli raised his rifle. The world held a breath. Then Pike's Sharps cracked. A man toppled from his horse, the shot clean and perfect. The vultures screamed and came hard. Eli's gun spoke next, the Henry bucking in his hands. Deke's scattergun roared, fire belching from its twin barrels, cutting down 2 riders at once. Clara's shot rang out, and another outlaw pitched sideways, a clean hole through his chest. The trap line snapped. A horse stumbled into a pit of stakes, shrieking. A rag bomb burst in flame, scattering men and mounts. And through it all came Jed Varn untouched, the long shotgun rising, face a mask of fury. Eli saw him coming and smiled, a grim, feral thing. He raised the rifle, and in that instant, Varn fired. A scatter of lead tore the air, and Eli felt the punch in his side, a deep, hot pain. He staggered but did not fall. Clara screamed. Varn leveled the shotgun again, but Pike's second shot struck the outlaw's shoulder, spinning him in the saddle. Varn cursed, blood blooming across his coat. Deeks bellowed a war cry, charging through the smoke. The fight wasn't over. Not yet.